I just wanted to help, to give my daughter the life I never had. But in the end, I lost every dollar, every jewel, and nearly my family too. My name is Melissa Grant, and I used to believe that love was enough to keep a family whole. Love, patience, sacrifice. The usual words they print on ceramic wall plaques and paint in cursive above the dining table. But love didn't pay tuition, and patience didn't stop the bills from piling up. My husband, Eric, was a hard man, not cruel, just practical to the bone. He worked a 9-to-6 logistics job and came home exhausted, wanting dinner hot and the house quiet. Our daughter, Kayla, was our whole world, or at least mine. Bright, ambitious, top of her class. She dreamed of going to Bayside Academy, a private prep school that could lead straight to Ivy League doors. But it was expensive. $20,000 a year expensive. Eric shut it down instantly. She'll do just fine at the public school. No need to waste money trying to impress people. I didn't argue. I never really did. Instead, I nodded and quietly began looking for another way. It started innocently. One evening, while Kayla was asleep and Eric was snoring on the couch, I scrolled through Facebook. That's when I saw the post. Stay-at-home moms are earning real income from home. No experience needed. It led to a slick-looking site, Prospera Vault. The colors were calming. The testimonials sounded real. I made $5,000 in just 3 weeks. Thanks to Prospera, my kids have a future. There was even a woman who looked like me, apron, ponytail, a tired smile, talking about how she used it to invest for her family. I clicked sign up. They offered a starter tier at just $250. That night, while Eric showered, I transferred the amount from my savings, the secret stash I kept from my old job before I became a full-time mom. 3 days later, $290 in the account, then $315, then $342. I stared at the dashboard like it was magic. Each day it ticked upward. It felt exciting, hopeful, like maybe I'd found a way out of the gray. A week later, I put in $500 more. Then I sold an old necklace I hadn't worn in years. $800, gone in minutes, turned into $1,020 the next day. The growth was so consistent, so smooth. It felt too good to be true, but somehow not quite unbelievable. I told myself this was for Kayla, that Eric would understand once she was in the school of her dreams. I started watching investment tutorials online. Terms like yield, ROI, and compound gain began to sound familiar. I even created a spreadsheet. For the first time in years, I felt smart again, useful, like I wasn't just wiping counters and folding socks in silence. Then one day, a man named Damien messaged me directly through the platform. "Hi, Melissa. I noticed your account is doing well. I'm a private advisor for Prospera's premium tier. You may qualify." He sent a Zoom link. He looked young, well-dressed, confident. The background looked like a real office. Glass walls, plants, a city view behind him. "You could double your investment in under a month," he said, "but only if you go all in." All in. That word stayed in my head like an echo. That night, Kayla came home crying. She'd been bullied again, her public school classmates mocking her for applying to Bayside. They said I was poor, that I didn't belong there. I held her, heartbreaking. And that's when I made the worst decision of my life. I took the last of my jewelry, my wedding earrings, my mother's bracelet, even the ring Eric gave me after Kayla was born. and sold it all. $5,600 in total. I wired every cent into Prospera Vault, but it still wasn't enough. So I did the unthinkable. I took Eric's emergency savings envelope from the closet. He kept $2,000 in cash for worst-case scenarios. I told myself this was worst case, that once it doubled, I'd replace it and he'd never know. The next morning, I logged in to check the dashboard. Error 404, then again, and again. Nothing. The site was gone. The app wiped from the Play Store. The Facebook page deleted. The emails bounced back. And Damien vanished. I couldn't breathe. $9,000 gone. Our emergency cash gone. My jewelry, my savings, my daughter's future. All of it had vanished into the void of the internet. And now, I had to face the man I betrayed and the child I failed. Every time I looked at him, I saw the cash I stole. And every time I looked at her, I saw the future I ruined. I stared at the empty screen for hours. I refreshed, reloaded, tried new browsers, checked internet forums, nothing. Prospera Vault was gone, like it had never existed. I paced the house, wringing my hands. My mouth was dry, my fingers numb. Eric would be home in 2 hours. And I'd just erased $9,000, but I didn't tell him. Not that night, not the next. I put the empty jewelry box back in my closet and covered it with a scarf. I folded the spreadsheet, slid it into the back of a recipe book, and forced myself to smile at the dinner table. But every sound made me flinch. Every drawer Eric opened felt like a trap. "Have you seen the emergency cash?" he asked one evening, frowning as he looked inside the closet. My stomach dropped. "You moved it last time, remember?" I said quickly. "I think it's in the pantry behind the rice." He gave me a strange look but didn't push. That night I barely slept. Kayla came into my room the next morning holding a brochure. "Mom, the Bayside Academy deadline is this Friday. I have to submit the deposit if I get accepted." I smiled. "Of course, honey, we'll figure it out." "Dad said no," she muttered. "But you promised, remember?" My heart shattered. Because I had promised, and I had believed it too. I searched online for anything about Prospera Vault. Reddit threads popped up. Hundreds of other moms like me crying out that they'd lost everything. Some said the company was based in Estonia. Others said it was fake from day one. Damien's photo turned out to be a stock image. His name was fake. The Zoom background was AI generated. I had fallen for a fantasy, and I'd dragged my family down with me. The next evening, I overheard Eric on the phone in the garage. "No, I haven't spent it. The envelope's just missing." A pause. "No, Melissa wouldn't touch it. She knows better." Another pause. Longer. "Yeah, I'll check again." When he came inside, I was slicing vegetables. I could feel his eyes on me. "You didn't happen to take the emergency money for anything, did you?" I kept chopping. "Number? Why? It's gone." "You probably misplaced it," I said, forcing a light laugh. He didn't answer, just stared. That weekend, he pulled out his laptop at the kitchen table. "Melissa," he said, "we need to go through the accounts." "What for?" "Because someone's been withdrawing money from our joint card." My blood turned to ice. He opened the screen, pointing. "This transaction here, jewelry pawn shop. Then this one, crypto exchange. And this, some sketchy site called something Vault?" I couldn't breathe. He turned to me. "What is all this?" I did what scared people do when cornered. I lied. "It wasn't me." His face went pale. "Then who? Kayla?" Maybe we've been hacked. He stood up slowly, his voice dropping. Melissa, I want the truth. And just like that, I cracked. I dropped the dish towel. My knees buckled. I did it. I wanted Kayla to have a future. I thought I could double it, triple it. I just wanted to help. Eric stared at me like he didn't know who I was. You took my savings? You stole from me? I did it for our daughter, I whispered. No, he snapped. You did it behind my back. Kayla walked into the room. She saw her father's red face. My tears. What's going on? Eric looked at me, then at her. Then he walked out, grabbed his keys and slammed the door. I stood there, shaking, my daughter watching. And all I could think was, I've ruined everything for everyone. They didn't even look at me the same anymore. I wasn't mom. I wasn't a wife. I was a cautionary tale. Eric didn't come home that night. I called once. He didn't answer. I texted. Nothing. Kayla was quiet the next morning. She pushed her cereal around the bowl without speaking. I tried to smile. It's Saturday. Maybe we could go for a walk, just us girls. I have homework, she said, not looking up. Eric came back the next evening. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He was cold. He walked right past me, kissed Kayla on the head, then locked himself in the den. I wanted him to scream. I wanted a fight. Anything was better than silence. Later that night, I stood at the door of the den. He didn't acknowledge me. Eric, I said quietly, I know I betrayed your trust. But I didn't do it to hurt you. But you did hurt me, he replied flatly. And I don't think you even understand how much. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His words were a clean cut. Sunday morning, Kayla came downstairs with her backpack. I'm going to Chloe's to study. I reached out instinctively to tuck her hair behind her ear. She flinched, pulled away. You lied to us, she said softly. Then she left. The house felt haunted. I wandered from room to room, replaying every moment, every click, every transfer, every promise I made to myself that it would be okay. I had tried to build a better life and ended up burning down the one I had. That night, I opened the recipe book and took out the spreadsheet. I looked at every number, every false gain, every dream that was never real. And I cried, harder than I had in years. 3 days later, I received an anonymous message through a forum I'd joined. There's a Telegram group. Survivors of Prospera Vault were filing a class action. I clicked the link. Hundreds of people, mothers, fathers, college students, all with the same story, and one pinned post. We may not get our money back, but we can get our power back. It wasn't much, but it was something. I started documenting everything, every transaction, every communication. I submitted it to the group's shared drive. I gave a statement, then another, and little by little, I began to feel human again, not whole, but trying. I started cooking again. I left sticky notes in Kayla's backpack with affirmations. I apologized again to Eric. He didn't say much, but he didn't walk away either. Then one afternoon, Eric came home early. He stood in the kitchen watching me chop onions. I saw your name in that article, he said, Otanas. What article? The online expose about Prospera. They quoted you. My heart skipped. I didn't think you'd see that, he nodded. You said you were ashamed, but that you weren't going to hide anymore. There was a long pause, then he said, I believe that. That night we sat on the porch. He didn't hold my hand, but he passed me his glass of lemonade, a quiet gesture, a thread. maybe beginning to stitch back together. Then Kayla came home from school and dropped a letter on the table. "It's from Bayside," she said. "What?" I blinked. I applied again on my own. For a scholarship, I opened the letter. Kayla had been accepted, with a full academic ride. Tears filled my eyes. "You did this," I whispered. She shrugged. "You tried. Even if it was stupid, and you tried." She walked away, and I stood there holding the letter under and hope. They thought I was weak, naive. Maybe I was. But in the end, I did what I always hoped to. I changed my daughter's life. Just not the way I planned. Life didn't snap back to normal. There were no miracles, no refund checks, no dramatic court victories, but slowly, in the quiet spaces, we began to heal. Eric and I saw a counselor just once a week, no shouting, just questions we were too scared to ask before. Kayla still didn't smile the way she used to, but she hugged me again. And for now, that was enough. The class action lawsuit gained traction. The group grew into thousands. We held weekly Zooms with journalists, legal advisors, and other victims. I became somewhat of a voice, the every woman who had risked it all. One day, a journalist reached out. "We're publishing a long-form story. Would you give us your full account?" I hesitated. But then I thought of Kayla and all the women who messaged me saying, I thought I was the only one, so I said yes. The article went viral, not in a celebrity sense, but in the quiet, meaningful way. Teachers shared it, therapists, moms, community groups. Eric came home with a copy of the magazine folded under his arm. "They printed your story," he said. "I didn't think you'd want to see it." "I read it twice," he replied. Then softer, "I'm proud of you, Mel." One evening I found a note in my bag from Kayla. "You always wanted to be a hero, Mom. You were. Not because of the money, but because when everything went wrong, you owned it. You didn't run." That's when I cried, because for the first time I felt forgiven. Months later, I got a call from one of the moderators of the victim group. "We think we found Damien." "You what?" "His real name is Marcus Patel. He used an AI overlay on all his calls, but someone cross-referenced voice recordings. He was living in the Cayman Islands under a different name. Interpol had flagged the lead. It wasn't closure, not yet, but it was something." The moderator paused, then said, "Your testimony helped build the case. If this gets to court, it's because you spoke up." I hung up shaking, but this time not from fear, from power. We never got the money back, but we paid off what we could. I took a part-time job at the local bookstore, not glamorous, but peaceful. I started tutoring math students at night. I was good at it. Who knew? Eric began trusting me again with the small things, then the big ones. He left a note on the fridge one day. "You've always been more than just a mom." Kayla is now 2 months into Bayside. She got her first A in physics, and she wants to start a women's finance club to teach other girls how to avoid what I fell into, so no one thinks they need to secretly save their families. I smiled. I lost money. I lost trust. I lost pieces of myself I'll never get back. But I found something too. I found my voice. I found my daughter's admiration. And I found a strength I never knew I had. They called me a victim, but I'm not one anymore. I'm a woman who fell much and stood back up. And sometimes, that's the best legacy a mother can leave behind.